So let's jump in. Um, I want to start with what's changed, and I've been in marketing now for 20 years, and it seems like it's changing faster and more rapidly than it ever has. And what there's three things that I call that I think are worth really paying attention to. Number one, every channel you now play in as an agent is algorithm based. I kind of call it, I guess when I talk to my kids and I catch them, I'm like, stop doom scrolling, right? Like that's literally what's happening is every channel is now built on an algorithm. And so if you are in channels as an agent, such as Instagram, Facebook, if you play in these channels at all, it's kind of partially about feeding the algorithm because that's how your content becomes visible and things like that. Those channels do not want to send traffic to your website anymore. That is one of the biggest shifts to be aware of. Meta, Reddit, even if you play in that, LinkedIn, all of these channels do not like to send traffic. They like to essentially cause people to doom scroll on their channel now. Number two, and probably the bigger one that maybe there's more concern about or that we're all feeling a little bit more is AI has essentially swallowed the entire funnel. So when you think about Chat GPT now, and if you use Claude or if you use Gemini or whatever you might use, you can do all of your research now without going to a single website for years. I'll give you actually a great example. I know probably in the future, I'm 3 to 5 years away from it. We're going to move. We've started to identify the state. We've started to identify communities. I've done all of this so far with AI today. I've not gone to a single agent website. I've not gone to a single real estate website. I haven't gone to any local website in the area. I have done all of my research through ChatGPT so far. I use Claude now, but through Claude, because it knows my history too. It knows how many kids I have. It knows what's important to me, such as mountain bike trails. It knows my price ranges. And so all of that research now happens in a place you don't have to go to someone's website, which is really the last point. Every visitor you get is getting harder to earn than ever before. The amount of effort it takes to get that visitor to your website is it's just astronomically high. And so you should view any traffic you get as really valuable. Every visitor that you're trying to get is harder to get than ever, which is why I wanted to do it. And I said we can talk about so much different stuff around just the website experience and property search and things like that. So I might kind of go fast through a few slides. I might talk about something a little bit more. Again, chat if things are important, just bubble it up. I want to talk about what we see now in real estate specifically. In my opinion, there's two types of websites. There's what I would call the typical brochure website with a property feed. It has the two standard CTAs usually across the board, home valuations and contact us. A lot of the community pages are simply a map today and a property search database of contacts. So a lot of agents we see as well right now, they have contacts. They might nurture them some months. They don't nurture them other months. They're not actually using the activity data that's populating from the property search, which we'll get into later, compared to what is going to win going forward. And I view it more as like building an experience or even building a brand. Honestly, it's kind of fun to say that as a marketer, at least, brand is coming back because brand is partially what now influences things like AI and Chat GPT. If you get mentioned on the web and things like that are all super important. We'll kind of get into that a little bit more as we kind of go through this. So I will casually drop optimization tips and tricks and things like that to think through. But as we go through this, a lot of how we structure is also based on how buyers and sellers are now finding agents as well. One other thing I think is just really important because I said it's more valuable today for every visitor you get. And I think we all get stuck in the premise of back to every website has pretty much the two CTAs, which is like the bottom of the funnel CTAs, right? Your website number one job to think about a little bit differently is to capture an email. If you capture the email, you've done half the battle. And here's why. It is what fuels your property search experience. Um, it's really interesting. I keep thinking about this. When I bought 3 years ago, I still get listing alerts from my agent, and I still occasionally click them, partially because I just want to see the trends going on, similar homes to my home. Are they selling for more? Are they selling for less? I was partially a dummy and bought at the peak, and so I'm always curious because we're going to move eventually, and so it gives me some insights, right? But because she has my email, she's also the only person that gets activity history that nobody else gets. And so the value of the email itself is almost more valuable than I'm going to get a home valuation today or get someone that's going to buy or sell their property immediately. If you can get more emails, everything works because you get the signals, I call them, that no other agent gets. You get, if I save a search, listing alerts that automatically fire, so there's automation behind it when I come back and view properties and things like that. And so that's why this is so important today, because you get a massive advantage almost over any other agent if you're able to capture the email, whether that takes weeks or months or years. And the odds of me, again, I have to select a new agent, right? But a lot of people probably don't go do this across 5 agents. They do it once, maybe twice, or when they're going to move, they might do it again. And so the email itself and capturing that email to get them into that system so you can start doing listing alerts and automations and things like that has a massive advantage over everybody else. One other thing, as I started going to the homepage, I kind of call it the what, where, who. And the reason this matters, your job when you think someone's going to your homepage and what they want to associate, because this also goes with how you'd optimize for ChatGPT and stuff, is what do you do? Is this a real estate agent? Am I on a real estate website? Where do you do it? Does that come off very quickly? And who are you and why should I trust you? The trust signals matter a ton as well, especially when you start thinking about things like, if you've done, which we've all done, probably even like some searches in ChatGPT around who's are the top agents and who's coming up in my area. One big thing that pops up is people have done a lot of transaction volume, right? And so if you're not doing a lot of transaction volume, you're not, some people come and do 200, let's say you're doing 5 to 10 a year. That's why I'd focus more on the experience and the brand more than the transactions itself, because that's how you're gonna stand out. And so this is how I would start thinking about your homepage experience going forward and the components that you should build out. And then we'll go through a few other key components that you need on your website. Number one that I mentioned is the what, who, where. That should come off in the hero header right away. This can sometimes be through imagery. We're seeing a lot of people do that really well right now. If they're doing luxury homes, they show luxury homes or that community in their area. And so that header is really important, to not just use stock photography there. Number two, really try to lean into your H1 tags, your headlines and your sub headlines, because that's the number one thing you want to focus on when you think about even AI in the future. I call it, you want to build consensus. They're coming to your site going, who is this person? What do they do? What areas do they serve?
It's the first thing, if I can interject,
Go ahead.
those tags that Jay's talking about is the first thing that Google looks at. And it's the first thing that ChatGPT, Claude, et cetera, is looking at, because it's trying to find a category. Those tags are very important.
If you want to get really complex on it, when I say consensus, another way to think about it too is they'll look at your website. They'll then go to your Zillow profile and confirm those things align. Let's say maybe people are talking about you in social media platforms. They're going to actually confirm that that is a consensus as well. And so they're looking across to honestly multiple sources to form a consensus on who you are, what you serve, things like that. Little bit more complex thinking, but just to share. I don't want to go too in the weeds on it. Number two is the about you. Again, I believe heavily now, and what we're seeing more successful is branding yourself. I almost view, and when I think about the really successful agents now, is I call it like trying to be a local celebrity in your area is almost half the battle, more than anything else. Services. So a lot of people don't build out services. I'll talk about this a little bit more, but relocation and things like that, multiple entry points for people to go deeper into your website besides just buy and home evaluation. Then you can get into your featured markets, those are your community pages. We'll talk a ton about those in the second half of this. That's what I want to spend the second most time on, is the market pages. Social proof, as I've mentioned, is a core signal and should be baked into your homepage. If you can actually link out to your third party review sites, that's great. And I would do that, such as your Zillow profile that validates transactions and things like that. You're going to want to do that. And then round out with clear CTAs. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. Do I want to click into any of these? I will share this. I just want to share like a few people that I think are just doing some really cool branding stuff. I'll click in. We're having fun. Again, so the hero header itself really supports the messaging and things like that. All the clear copy here, and actually trust signals right at the top as well is becoming very important. So all that's there. And then again, community pages are baked in. I won't go too much. This one I just really like a lot, actually, too. Again, really strong branding and things like that that are really, I think, important if you're trying to win. I know there's always, as I was thinking about this slide a little bit, and there's always resistance to niching down a little bit as an agent, and totally get that, but there always is potentially more opportunity as well. When we think about AI and stuff with your website experience, people are getting very specific. So like one thing that's super important to me is mountain biking and being in a mountain biking community area. It's why I live in Bentonville today, Arkansas. They call it the mountain bike capital of the world. It's why I'm thinking about Tennessee and going out that way, maybe Chattanooga or something, right? Because I'm really into mountain biking. And so that's really valuable to me. And so being able to eventually position around that, if I ever searched for an agent and got really specific around that context, is really powerful. I have some secrets we'll kind of go through with how I think you can pull that off better than just positioning your whole homepage around it here in a little bit. The other big opportunity and gap that we're seeing on web experiences today are missing pages. And so when we think about where future buying behavior is trending, especially around AI search and stuff, it serves a lot of, when it really serves websites, it's serving bottom of the funnel searches more than anything else. And so most agents today focus very specifically on showing for, I'm the top agent in these communities. Great, but you should also build out services pages that buyers and sellers might be interested in. So this could be seller consultations. This could be first-time home buyer services. These can be relocation services. Building out these actual pages on your website are critical now. One, because not many agents are doing that. So you have a huge opportunity to get served in search and in AI with those pages. Home valuations is another one. Most agents today have one home valuation page. You should actually start building out multiple home valuation pages for each of your main markets and communities for the same reason. Long form is how buyers are now starting to find agents. And so you want to make sure that you have content very specifically for all of your communities versus just one home valuation page. Listings and transactions, I would start adding these to your site if possible as well. Your listings and your active close are your closed transactions, so that AI and things like that can easily find that signal. It's also a good trust signal as well for buyers and sellers. And then deeper content pages, blog content and things like that, where you can actually embed your property search. You want to try to use your property search functionality as much as possible. Again, because of the signals that you can get later. And then AI answer pages. So just view these as long form pages as well that might just answer very specific questions. Again, I mentioned about mountain biking, so there's very specific questions. The real, what I call it long tail stuff. And if I'm being too technical, please just ask and leave a comment. I can dive in deeper. But really long tail specific question content is great. Or you can put this as an FAQ in your market pages and stuff down the road as well, and it might get serviced from that as well. One other thing about your web experience I talked about earlier, and then we'll jump into property search, but I just wanted to talk about the really big things that are going to help you make real momentum with your website experience. Brand yourself, get the homepage structure right, build out the additional pages you need, and really start thinking about any way that you can start getting that email. So not just the bottom CTA offers. Yes, if you have property search, you get listing alerts and things like that, but be real strategic with where you're placing those. Again, with iHome, you get a widget. So if you're in WordPress, you can put those in blogs. You can put them in any page you want so you can get those other CTAs. Do simple, just sign up for content emails now even. Market trends, and then connect. I think the other, as traffic gets harder, building an audience, I call it, on your social profiles becomes important and more critical. And so don't be afraid to just invite people to connect with you on social media instead, especially if you're active there. If you're not familiar, just to drop a little promo, we do have social media content AI assistant. We do have blogging AI assistant that you can use. You can create content around that stuff in clicks. And it's really quick and easy to do. But think about building your audience off your website as well as a critical component. You don't own the audience like you do in email, but that would be the next thing I would focus on. Owning my audience with the email and then trying to build my sphere of influence on social media. Cool. I'm going to switch gears here. If there's anything in what I just covered you would like us to go deeper on, you want to do a deeper session on, I'm more than happy. There's a million things I could talk about on the website side. And so I really wanted to talk about the biggest opportunities that I think you can tackle today as an agent. The property search, though, is what's the engine that gets this whole thing to really run. So we'll go through this quickly, and then I'm going to do a deeper dive into market pages because that's the cornerstone of your entire approach. And as I've said before, the reason is you get data that no other agent can get. And so you get when people are clicking links, you get when people are viewing listings, you get when they've saved listings, you get when they're viewing results, you get additional data on the type of properties they're looking at. Then you can trigger automations. If you're going to do a text, you can set up saved searches for your database based on this information. And you just need to view these as signals that no other agent probably has access to but you, which is why gaining that email is so important and why I structure my page to be about email acquisition as much as possible without being annoying, right? And that's why I even mentioned early, building trust matters, building your brand matters, talking about who you are matters, because that's who someone's going to associate with and want to give their email to more than anything else. So building those trust signals are really important to make sure that you can have a chance to get that email. Property search also helps drive your entire funnel. It's the discovery engine. And so when we talk about market pages and reports, that is, I have another slide in here, so I'll probably skip over it. But the two signals we see for what drives more transactions and more leads into someone's database is content velocity. They're creating content on their blog, they're creating content on social media, and market pages. The amount of market pages they have that are live and optimized. Those two things are what fuel a majority of discovery for agents. Then the capture component. Again, all of this is built in. You can do capture widgets, you can do schedule tour and request tour CTAs, there's sign up for listing alerts, there's favorite a property, you can share properties, property search registrations, All of that is email capture based. You can change when it shows up, how much. We can go a little bit more in depth. A lot of agents today, especially like the high transaction agents, you see them gating all their listings even just to get an email. That works if you have a really well-known brand. If you're, really trying to get going, you can change it. It might not be as aggressive. Maybe there's a time delay or how many views they do, or maybe you don't do it at all. And you just let people view and search property listings, but things to think about and maybe even test and see if you can drive more lead capture that way. Nurture, we have the second webinar we're going to do next month is all about that component. So I'm talking about all these signals and stuff. I don't want to go deep into the nurture component on this webinar specifically because there's just so much there. This is the fuel for that component. Discovery. So really cool. Number one, we do have Smart Search. Smart Search just allows people to use natural language search. This does show up in the back end of your CRM with an iHome Finder. And so the Smart Search I would look at is gives you deeper insights that you might have missed otherwise with a filter-based search, and just really helps fuel your one-to-one outreach. If you're going to send a text, maybe if you're creating content, it might help you understand the listing alert that you should send out next. So that's fantastic. Two, I mentioned the mapping capability. So we do have interactive maps. All of that feeds into your property search. You can put your widgets anywhere, especially if you're on a WordPress website. It's a simple short code. Again, so if you're creating, and I'm going to talk about a hub and spoke model around your market pages, where you'll see it is critical to be using these search widgets more and more, especially on your blog content and things like that, around this kind of discovery engine that we're going to talk about. Dino, do you have anything else you want to add here before I move on?
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about creating content, and specifically what Jay was talking about, things like blogs, you can literally throw a quick search widget into the middle of the content of a blog, on top of an image in the middle of the text. Those kind of things get lots of mileage for people who do go there. And so all of these widgets or shortcodes for in the case of WordPress, they can all be embedded in blog. If you're talking about it like a localized event, I'm just going to pull something out of my hat, a car show. You can actually say the car show is at this fairgrounds, and you can actually make a polygon map that goes 4 blocks either side of the fairgrounds and show all of those listings near the fairgrounds inside of your blog. So the way to add interactive widgets in any of your content is really easy with our system.
Awesome. Capture. And so when we think about discovery, and also what we're really talking about there, and I'll get into the next slides, is how buyers and sellers are also probably going to discover you. The market pages, the community pages, some people call them as well, or the front door. If you're blogging actively and then you're using the widgets there, that's another front door component that people can come in to discover to ultimately feed into your capture system. And so the capture system, one is that pop-up that you might see when trying to view a listing. So, oops, this image here on the left, a great example. Now, again, you can create certain strength levels. And so if you want to do like, must confirm your email and things like that, you can put how much you want to be on the form as well. And so all of that is tunable to a capture strength. I wouldn't really I would keep it very minimal unless you're struggling with what you think would be junk and things like that. And then custom trigger points, as I mentioned, you can gate all of your listings if you want. Again, I think that's for if you're really well known in your market. And so for them, it's low friction to fill out. If you're not as well known or you're truly trying to gain traction, you're probably going to let people see at least some listings before you turn it on. All of that is customizable in the back end of iHome. When you pull this off, you turn an anonymous search into a known contact. I wouldn't just use your iHome functionality here. As I've mentioned, things like just starting a newsletter and getting that email into your database, right? And then eventually getting them to click a link to a listing and things like that are also super critical and another way to start getting activity. But it's great when you can get it right from your property search and capture that signal data that you're ultimately after. And this is where that visitor search, you capture that person, you turn that into a save search, you automatically get listing alerts, and you get that fuel right back to your website. Um, this should be eventually 30, 40, 50% of your traffic. I think sometimes when we think about traffic, we always view it as like a zero sum game, which is, I just got to keep getting visitors. Well, half your traffic should come from your database and your nurture system, and you are capturing leads. And it gets easier as you get more people into it and you get more people into it. Um, we talk with one of our agents. Um, they do 30, 35 deals a year. It all comes from their market pages, people filling out to get listing alerts. They put them into a saved search. That's how he's closing 30 to 35 deals a year. And it's all because of his discoverability from the market pages and things like that. And then the saved search, he captures 30 to 50 people a month. Through his IDX today and then nurtures them into deals, obvious. Let's talk about market pages because these will be the main front door. And as I mentioned, is one of the number one signals for how successful your website is as an agent and your ability to be discovered. I won't bore you with this because I've already talked about it. Two things we see: content velocity and managed market pages. The other thing that's really important, especially with AI and things like that, to think about is it's just another layer on top of the complexity. Then what content velocity is also content freshness, and this goes into market pages as well, which is you also have to be updating the content more regularly. If you've been in the business a while, you probably for a while remember if you got one post to rank, that post would feed you for years. Now it feels like you might write something and it decays in 6 months. Some of that can be updated with frequency. One trick people are even applying right now is they're putting a note at the bottom of their content and market pages on when it was last updated as well, because AI is looking at that stuff. Your market pages themselves obviously always auto update when you have the embedded widget in there with market data and things like that, which is great. Ours aren't iframes or anything, so AI can read them and pick them up, which is really important. They're not based on subdomain, so they live on your site and URL. If you're slightly familiar with subdomains, you know that a subdomain is technically a separate website, and so it doesn't have the same authority as your main website, and there's a whole host of other issues. I'll give you an example. It's always something worth checking. Somebody was with another website and IDX provider, and something as simple as not setting up a www redirect. And so if your site has www and you can go to that, and you can go to the non-www version, technically those are two separate websites to the algorithms. And so you're splitting the juice. And so you always want to make sure you only have one as an example. This is the cool thing about market pages as well, because they create a lot of the automated touch points. So they can get the listing alerts when new listings go up. You can then auto trigger open home alerts. You can auto trigger market reports that will go up monthly, all updated with your MLS and things like that. So this in itself creates its own nurture system that you can almost put on autopilot. Now you should weave in here, and we'll talk about this in the second series, personalized touches, content-driven touches, not just listing updates. It's probably, when I think about my agent, probably the huge miss that I don't get. I only get listing alerts from her instead of using my saved search data that's popping up to create some not automated, more personalized touch points, right? Ooh, and have market pages changed from just being able to be a headline and a map and listings to becoming a very in-depth style piece of content that, again, needs to have a way to get updated? And so This is more, again, thinking about how to build and optimize these pages for discoverability going forward. So thinking about that hero now, clearly naming the market that it's in. Your next section should be about the area, schools, zip code context, what it's like to live there. We'll get into like some other components I'll share in another slide with how this can look really nice and slick and help you keep this fresh. Because, I'm going to jump ahead one time because I'm going to go here quick and then I'll go back because this is what it takes or looks like for a successful market page now in 2026, and they feed into each other. So think about your market page now as this hub about this market. And within this market page, you are creating blog posts that link to it. You're creating social posts that link to it. You're creating resource posts and emails that link to it. One of that is the association. One of that is also the authority, so that market page gets more authority. It also, if you're linking on your market page back to blog content, which I'll show an example of, again, it gets that content freshness and things like that. The other thing it then fuels and the other type of pages you need is not just the market page, but types of properties in that market. Now, not every market might have these depending on size, right? But if you're in a lakefront area for that market, there should be an advanced search that you send people to. Again, thinking about the signal that you might get and things like that. I always use the example when I was buying, we were looking at new construction, and like my saved search was literally new construction homes with very specific square footage and bedroom requirements. I didn't want to see anything else. Two, back to rankings and algorithms, this is now how people are using AI, and you are much more likely to show in those results having these specific pages built out than just relying on just your market page. And your market page links out to these pages as well, and vice versa. And you can build authority, and these higher intent pages almost at times probably have a higher chance to get mentioned than your market page. Another reason I'll just share when you think about how this is a little advanced, but it's worth noting if you've ever done an AI search and you're like, WTF, these are completely different. I've done this search 3 times and it completely changes. AI is also kind of a lottery system, which is there might be 500 other agents that can pop up. And so how do you reduce that lottery system? Potentially by creating more specific content. And so if someone searches for lakefront homes in a specific area, and then now there's less pages it can pull from, you have a better chance of actually showing. Little nuance with it, but that's the other reason you would actually do this. I'm going to go back. Featured properties. This is the featured property widget. I can show some examples of that. Market report data. We can kind of show that stuff. FAQs matter a ton now for AI. And then build it out and finish it with a CTA as well. But not just property search, but a local authority hub. And so in this example for Tellico Village, within the market page, there's buckets of content that buyers and sellers can go explore as well and go deeper and also help with that hub effect. It also helps those other pages and market pages rank. I'm just going to do that for funsies. Right. So all of this is part of the market page that they're linking out. And so what they're doing here, which is a great way or fine way to do it, they're creating a hub resource here as well within it, and then linking out to their blog content as well. The blog content links back in. So this is a great example. Again, we also have a content AI builder in the back end that you can leverage and actually create content and things like that, depending on what plan you're on. And so this can get really easy, and you can use that. You can use your MLS data as part of this, also as part of your lead capture system and things like that. But that gives you a good idea of what I'm really talking about here when I talk about, well, what does that look like on a market page? And let me pop this back up. Oops. Again, the number two component is using your market page and then creating very specific advanced searches. So in the back end of iHome Finder, you can create customized filtered based market reports for different types of properties, for new construction, for 55 plus communities, for golf properties, for condos. Again, keep in mind, do it relevant. You could do property values. So maybe in that one area, it's $1 million, plus homes. And so maybe one section is $1 million plus homes. And again, the other thing is to get the alerts. So as you send people there, if they sign up for alerts, the more specific someone gets, the better your alerts and signals are as you get those insights. You can do outreach if you're going to do something one-to-one, and you have way more insight versus someone that goes to a market page and just fills out potentially the alert form. Yeah, let's jump into one really quick too. Again, up top here, talking about the property details, you got to get way more in depth with the insights and content that you're giving now in your market pages. And then again, the market data embedded in, this is all customizable. You can brand it to your website. This is what helps keep all of this fresh as well. And so when you think about, okay, I can update the market data automatically, and then I have a component that also links out to fresh content as my hub, and your page starts to update itself regularly, very quickly. Again, same thing here. I'll just share so you can kind of see how this is working within iHome, right? Here's what I would leave you with as an order of priority. Market pages are the number one signal we see for success. Build out as many market pages as you can within your MLS, even if possible, and your MLS allows maybe some popular subdivisions. I would actually do those as well. Not every MLS does, so there's nuances there and everything, just something to kind of be aware of. But there's big opportunity even in some of the smaller communities to get rank. Again, it goes that lottery system. There's less agents in an area that's maybe a small market than there would be in a big market like Dallas, Texas, right? And so those communities matter a ton. Build your spokes to help give that page more authority. That's the two content sides of the fan, right? So I'm going to just back up to make it easy. Oh, no. Your blog posts. Social posts aren't a huge concern today, but it's just something when you think about doing social posts, you're probably linking to your market pages, resource pages, your email alerts, and then your lakefront pages and things like that as well. And then services pages. This, I think, is the missing hidden opportunity because not many people are doing it. And again, back to the lottery system, you have an even higher likelihood to actually get mentioned and shown by building out these pages and getting referenced and things like that as well. And we have two more webinars coming up and even more to come. These will probably get more tactical in nature than what we went through here today, which is turn your database into deals. So now that you're capturing leads, how do you actually work them effectively? What does that look like? What type of nurture stream should you be doing? We're launching a whole set of new nurture features coming out here in a few weeks, hopefully, that we're going to go through as part of this. So really excited to share all of that as part of this as well. So it'll be a great one to go through. And then we're going to go into the big one, which will be content as well, not just creating content for social media, which you can do with iHome, creating blog content as well, which you can do, but how you can optimize that content. We'll do a little bit more advanced components as well, not just the velocity, but the optimization, building in the market pages and things like that, and what a true content engine and successful content engine looks like as an agent today.
Go. So this is the market section, and there's just a couple of things I wanted to touch upon here. And for those of you who have trained with me, like Craig had asked some questions earlier, I talked to Craig just this week. This is the back end of iHomeFinder.training. So this is a practical use. If you ever want to have, if you have any training questions, we do have a training portal. It is iHomeFinder.training as opposed to iHomeFinder.com. And so you can see I have some markets created here. But what I would like to do is just go in here and add a new market, because the experience here is the same experience that your clients see on the front end of your website. This is literally your search page when we're creating this kind of content. Now, I'm going to go ahead and, because we were talking about, leading things to specific types of pages from the spokes that you have out there. You can always go in here and just grab, a city, but our system goes so much deeper than that. And I can give you, for instance, I'm going to go to the More tab here. Now, these are the advanced search options. Every MLS, these are different. So your mileage may vary of what you see here. Some of them have subdivisions, some of them are laid out different, but they are all different. There are over 800 MLSs in the United States. But I'm going to give you a really good practical view of something that you can do to really create lots of micro markets, so to speak, because the more markets you have, the better. I'm just going to create a polygon map here. We're going to grab the polygon map tool, and I accidentally clicked on a listing here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adjust this polygon map for the area that I know I want it to go in. And now I'm going to go over here to the More tab, and I'm going to say horse property. And if I move this a little bit more north, there'll probably be more than one result. I actually had a little problem here on the laptop. But you can see as I move this polygon map around, there's specific horse properties. There's a place here called Equestrian Village. You could really narrow these things down, but within a polygon map, which you're not going to find any place but iHomeFinder. If I wanted just listings within this map with a pool, there's 12 results here. So you can really narrow these down very, very specifically. And don't be afraid to have 25 or 30 market pages on your website. Statistically, the more markets you have, not only the better your AEO and SEO is to drive traffic to your website, but the more revenue you will see in sales overall. So the markets are a really, really important part. And just one other thing I wanted to touch upon that Jay touched upon in her system is the lead capture. You have the greatest website in the world and you can have tons of traffic to it, but if your lead capture is not set up properly, you're going to lose out on your market share. And this is my view on this. I generally set these up so that we force somebody to sign up, but you can do it as flexible, where the pop-up will come and they can X out of it and they can just keep looking until their heart's content. I usually set it to moderate, because what I'll do is I'll let them look at more listings. Remember, a serious buyer, when they're on your website, if you have a serious buyer or even a serious seller, when they drill down in the system, and remember, our system is artificial intelligence based, it's watching all the behavior of your client when they're on the website, especially these clients that Jay's talking about in your funnel that are coming back. We're getting a lot of empirical data from these clients. It's not a bad thing to let them see, 7, 8, 9 listings, because the reality is if they're serious, they're going to scroll up and down the page and they're literally going to click through images of that listing, which the net result there is they're on average, they're going to be on that page for about 70 seconds. So if we set this to 9, and then we give them the modal pop-up that says, hey, why don't you give me your email address? Because we want the email addresses. We've talked about that. They're much more likely to engage after they've been on your website and taken 10 minutes of their time than they are if we set this to 2. One of the other things our system absolutely excels at is search results. Our system will actually quantify and qualify search results. So for instance, let me set up a scenario here for you. You have a client that comes and does a search on your website, and he or she searches in a zip code, and we return 60 listings to a page or 30 listings to a page. They don't look at any of the listings. Then they do another search in a different zip code within a 20-mile radius. And they engage with that page, and we see that there's another 35 listings there. On that page, they click on 18 of those 35 listings and they engage. The AI backend is going to note that. It's going to make that part of their profile. And essentially, what that shows is not only what they want, but it also shows what they don't want. So setting up your lead registration threshold is really important with iHome Finder. Our systems are made to lead generate, and be mindful of where you set these up.